Rachel Zegler was supposed to be Disney's next Golden Girl. After making headlines as the fresh-faced lead in West Side Story, all eyes were on her as she stepped into one of the most iconic roles of all time, Snow White. This was her moment. The role that could have catapulted her into A-list royalty, but instead of a fairy tale ending, it's looking more like a complete disaster. Because now, the gloves are off, allegations are flying that her very own co-star Andrew Burnap, the Prince himself.
Have they ever thought about maybe like a little bit of I don't know, vulnerability study, opposition research, that sort of thing, before you go and hire some Zoomer who's a lunatic?
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
They say all you have to do to make your wish come true is let it echo, 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 echo.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
This is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
Is blaming Rachel for Snow White's total collapse, not just at the box office, but behind the scenes too. According to insiders, Burnap believes Zegler is the reason this remake turned into a chaotic mess, accusing her of hijacking the creative direction and turning what should have been a timeless fairy tale into, well, whatever this was. And let's be honest, he might have a point. The numbers don't lie. The so-called modern Snow White barely scraped together $194 million globally, against a jaw-dropping budget that could have funded an actual kingdom.
They spent $170 million to make the thing, and it had the lowest opening, under $50 million, of any of these live-action Disney remakes that they've ever had.
It's awful, generic. Never mind that the lyrics make no sense at all. All you have to do to make your dream come true is let it echo. Is it like on a metaphor?
I wanted my money back. It was very disappointing.
I sat through the whole thing. This was really bad. It was extremely leftist on every political dimension: racial politics, sexual politics, class politics, regime politics. Its narrative was cowardly. It was just awful.
Controversy in Snow White. The dwarves have been eliminated in the live action.
Yeah.
Now it's Snow White and the 7 magical beings.
Wait, it's 7 and the magical beings.
Yeah,
They won't even
7
say
magical
and the 7
beings.
dwarves.
No, because they're not dwarves. For right now, that's the only jobs that are there.
It's got extra musical numbers that are incredibly unnecessary that really add to that runtime. And let me go ahead and let you know that they're absolutely f***ing atrocious.
And while the movie itself is flopping harder than anyone expected, the drama happening off screen might be even uglier. Because this isn't just about bad box office numbers. This is about what really went down behind the scenes. The power, plays, the egos, and the alleged finger-pointing that's now spilling out into the open. And at the center of it all, Rachel Zegler. So what exactly did Andrew Burnap say? Why is he allegedly calling out his own co-star? And how much of this disaster can really be pinned on Rachel?
Doing catastrophically. They spent $300 million and it currently has a 2.2 out of 10 rating on IMDb.
The movie has a major identity crisis.
The new Disney boss babe, who is Rachel Zegler, the inverse of
Disney deleted Someday My Prince Will Come and made a modernized feminist alternative.
Last week was a very big week, objectively a huge week. We had quite a few announcements. It's the first live-action film, which is Snow White and the Evil Queen. And that's me, I'm Snow White, which is so funny.
Pretending like Rachel Zegler is the first of them all when she looks like Lord Farquaad in the film.
Nobody
Who
wants
wants
that.
a movie about true love? What kind of woman do we want out there seeking true love, Eliana? The outrage.
Oh, buckle up, because the tea is piping hot. Word on the street is that Andrew Burnap is done playing nice. Behind closed doors, and according to some pretty loud whispers, Burnap has been venting about just how off the rails this Snow White production became. And the person he's allegedly pointing the finger at, you guessed it, Rachel Zegler. Sources close to the project claim Burnap has been brutally honest with people in his circle.
Hardcore.
They're petrified of some kind of backlash.
Broke out with this news, and I'm very, very, very excited and looking forward.
Oh my God.
Rachel Zegler, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infantata is the only global solution.
Lines that they say, like magic mirror on the wall. It was a lot of fun.
So apparently, according to them and according to the writers of Snow White, women can't even want to be in love anymore.
Part of the first, fairy tale ever told.
And you know the saying,
go woke, get broke, and Disney's going to lose money on this movie. And I believe it only made less than $1 million.
She came out and she said, I apologize. Like, I went too far. But it wasn't.
Saying that the original vision of the film was totally derailed the moment Zegler started demanding changes to the script. We're talking major rewrites, storyline overhauls, entire scenes allegedly reshaped around her so-called modern feminist take on the character. And apparently, Andrew wasn't the only one side-eyeing these changes, but he's the one bold enough to speak up about it. Now here's where it gets messy. From what insiders are saying, Burnap believed they were all signing on to remake a classic, the tale we grew up with. But as the rewrites piled up and Rachel's influence on the direction grew stronger, the project reportedly morphed into something totally unrecognizable. Gone was the fairy tale romance. Gone was the heart of the story. Instead, we got a heroine who openly mocks the original plot, calling it weird and dated, while the prince character was pushed further and further into the background. And Andrew? Allegedly, he was not here for it. He's reportedly told friends that his role felt gutted, stripped of purpose. Some say Burnap even argued behind the scenes that the whole message of the film was being lost in the process, turning into a preachy mess instead of a heartfelt fantasy. And while the studio might have tried to keep a lid on the tension during the press tour, insiders claim that Andrew's frustration was hard to hide. But the worst part? Rumor has it, every time concerns were raised, they were allegedly shut down by the same answer. This is Rachel's vision now. And if that's true, well, it explains a lot about why this movie ended up the way it did. Because when your lead actress is calling the shots on how the entire story should be told, and your own co-star feels like he's being sidelined in the process, that's not just creative differences, that's a full-blown mutiny. But believe it or not, this was only the start of the chaos. From the very beginning, Rachel Zegler made it crystal clear. She wasn't here to play Disney princess. Nope, she was here to rewrite the story entirely. In interviews leading up to the film's release, Zegler didn't just hint at a modern twist. She flat out called the original Snow White outdated and weird. She slammed the classic storyline for being sexist, brushing off the central love story as something no one needed to see. According to Rachel, this was going to be a new Snow White. One where the princess doesn't fall for the prince, doesn't dream about romance, and definitely doesn't wait around for some guy to rescue her. And look, if you're thinking that sounds like a bold choice, you're not wrong. But here's the problem. When you start openly trashing the very movie you're supposed to be honoring, you're asking for trouble, especially when that movie is one of Disney's most beloved classics of all time. Fans were not having it. The backlash was immediate. People started calling out Rachel's interviews as smug and condescending, saying she showed zero respect for the story that built the entire Disney empire. Instead of leaning into the fairy tale magic, she seemed more interested in tearing it all down, turning what should have been a celebration of the original into a lecture about why it was all wrong. And this wasn't just some offhand comment made once and forgotten. Zegler doubled down in multiple interviews, smirking her way through press junkets while explaining how little she cared about Prince Charming, or any of the old-fashioned romance that made Snow White a global icon in the first place. She even went so far as to suggest that the prince character was borderline stalker-ish, a comment that left audiences stunned and co-star Andrew Burnap, who plays the prince, allegedly fuming behind the scenes. Because here's the thing, people didn't show up to see Snow White rebranded as a girl boss TED Talk. They came for the fairy tale, the romance, the nostalgia. Instead, they got Rachel Zegler standing on the ashes of the original, holding a match, and telling everyone how proud she was to burn it down. But as the premiere date crept closer, the real question was, would audiences actually buy what she was selling? Well, the box office had an answer. For all the hype Disney tried to build around this so-called reimagined Snow White, the opening weekend numbers hit like a punch to the gut. A measly $42 million haul. Let's put that into perspective. Other Disney remakes, like The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, and even Aladdin, opened to hundreds of millions. These films raked in cash hand over fist, riding the wave of nostalgia and audience goodwill. But Snow White? It face-planted right out of the gate. And it wasn't just opening weekend. The drop-off in ticket sales was brutal. Word of mouth? Even worse. The film quickly became the punchline of industry gossip, with insiders whispering that this wasn't just a box office flop, it was a full-blown PR nightmare. The global total? barely scraping past $194 million, which is laughable when you stack it against the film's bloated $240 to $270 million production budget. And that's not even counting the marketing costs, which were massive. This wasn't just a miss. This was a bomb. And honestly, the writing was on the wall from day one. Audiences didn't connect with the film. They didn't like the preachy tone. They didn't appreciate being told that the story they grew up loving was wrong. And they definitely didn't appreciate the lead actress treating the original material like it was beneath her. Disney had gambled everything on Rachel Zegler's empowered version of Snow White. But instead of selling tickets, it sold resentment. Fans weren't showing up to celebrate the rebrand. They were staying home and making it loud and clear on social media exactly why they had no interest in supporting this version of the fairy tale. And while Disney's PR machine scrambled to spin the numbers, trying to blame market conditions or viewer fatigue, everyone knew what the real problem was. The audience didn't reject Snow White. They rejected this Snow White. And the fallout? Oh, it was just getting started. If the behind-the-scenes drama wasn't bad enough, Rachel Zegler's social media habits threw gasoline on the fire. Because while Disney was busy trying to hype up this remake as a fresh, empowering take on a beloved classic, Zegler was out here making headlines for all the wrong reasons. And we're not talking about playful banter or harmless promo posts. We're talking full-on political statements that had nothing to do with the movie and everything to do with sparking controversy. Because Disney, yeah, they don't do well with any kind of political heat when they're trying to sell theme park tickets and lunchboxes. Insiders claim the tweet caused chaos internally. PR teams scrambling. Executives allegedly furious. Meetings called. Damage control in full swing. The last thing Disney wanted was to have the star of their family-friendly remake wading into one of the most polarizing political issues on the planet right before the film's release. And this wasn't some one-off tweet she deleted and moved on from. Zegler stood by it, doubled down even. And while some fans praised her for speaking her truth, a massive chunk of the audience wasn't so forgiving. People started questioning whether they even wanted to support the movie at all. Hashtags calling for boycotts popped up overnight. Comment sections turned toxic. The official Snow White posts on Disney's own channels flooded with backlash. The whole promo campaign spiraled into a PR nightmare that no amount of fairy dust could fix. And here's where things really start to hurt. Disney allegedly tried to rein her in, told her to cool it. But Zegler, by all accounts, wasn't interested in playing ball. She kept her foot on the gas, putting her personal politics front and center while Disney desperately tried to steer the ship back toward neutral ground. But the damage was done. Because it's one thing for a movie to flop because the story didn't land. It's another thing entirely when the audience feels like they're being scolded by the lead actress before they even buy a ticket. And as bad as the social media fallout was, the industry reaction, even worse. The knives really came out when Jonah Platt? Yeah, that Jonah Platt, the son of Snow White producer Mark Platt, decided he wasn't going to stay quiet. In a move that shocked a lot of people in the industry, Jonah went public. No sugarcoating, no vague statements. He straight up blamed Rachel Zegler's off-screen antics, her interviews, her social media posts, her political takes for the absolute disaster that the Snow White remake had become. According to Jonah, Zegler's non-stop commentary wasn't just distracting, it was damaging. He accused her of single-handedly tanking the film's reputation before it even had a chance to succeed, turning what could have been a nostalgic box office hit into a hotbed of controversy. And the thing is, Jonah wasn't alone. Behind the scenes, there was already plenty of chatter that Disney had made a mistake by giving Zegler so much power. Some insiders were allegedly furious that she'd been allowed to go on interview after interview trashing the original story, mocking the prince, and alienating the very audience Disney was counting on. And whether people agree with Jonah or not, one thing was clear, the controversy had officially crossed over from the gossip blogs to the business meetings. It wasn't just about box office numbers anymore, it was about reputation. And for Rachel Zegler, that reputation was looking shakier by the day. The turmoil surrounding Rachel Zegler and Disney's Snow White remake serves as a cautionary tale about the complexities of adapting classic stories for contemporary audiences. It highlights the challenges actors face in balancing personal expression with public expectations. As Hollywood continues to revisit and reimagine beloved tales, the industry must navigate these waters carefully to resonate with both new and nostalgic viewers.